Men. What kind of low-grade sexual harassment do you face on a daily basis?
Deleted.
Worked in bars and would constantly be groped by older women who thought it was funny. Also, as a Scottish piper, kilt lifting is a thing and honestly it needs to stop. Grow up.
Greater than also, as a Scottish piper, kilt lifting is a thing and honestly it needs to stop. Grow up. My aunt literally slapped a woman across the face for doing this poo at my cousin's wedding.
My bulge was a topic of open discussion between some of the women in the office at a previous job. The kicker is that one of the women was our HR and sexual assault, harassment reporter.
The HR woman at my old job was caught with candid photos of guys' asses on her phone.
Deleted.
Not really low grade, but when I used to work as a lifeguard on the beach there was lots of non-consensual touching. The two that really stick out are the middle-aged woman who walked up to me like she had a question, then got a hold of my DK through my trunks because she wanted to see how big it was, and the 16-year-old girl who backed me into my stand and shoved a Skittle into my mouth with her tongue.
Surprised you never got Wendy Peppercorn.
In 20 years of lifeguarding, rescuing someone only ever got me laid once.
Jesus, that's horrid.
Ironic how this post is labeled NSFW, but most of these take place at work.
A female coworker, I tell her if she was male, she would have been fired multiple times for her behavior. She just laughs and says, yeah, probably.
That's terrible. Sometimes I think people legitimately don't realize their behavior is unacceptable, but the fact that she's been given the opportunity to apologize and just admitted her behavior was wrong and not take it seriously is terrible.
My 55-year-old co-worker somewhat resembles Ursula from The Little Mermaid. That hasn't stopped her from asking me if I think she's asking me to take her home, and telling me she sprays like a watering can. Yes, really. Edit, I should add that I'm 21, which I think makes it a lot weirder.
I spray like a watering can. Yeah, and you effing look like one too. What is she going to do? Tell HR? Good luck to her explaining that original comment.
A woman just straight up grabbed my DK whilst I was working at a festival. My friend who knew her told me not to make scene as she was upper management.
I still would've. Screw it.
Try dressing in traditional Scottish kilt in a city without some woman lifting it to see if you have underwear on. We all think it's funny until a guy does it to a woman.
Was going to say the same thing. You'd think wearing a kilt was a bloody invitation. Some middle-aged guest did this when I was a kid at a wedding. I was 12. Thinking back on that, it's effing disgusting.
Male sexual harassment has not been taken seriously for at least as long as I've been alive, the mindset being that men always want it, so it can't be wrong to touch 'em, etc. The last couple of years though I've been seeing public opinion move away from that viewpoint, with more and more people seeing it as unacceptable. I'm confident the kilt example will seem unbelievable in a generation or so. There's still a long way to go, but things are finally starting to change.
I have been referred to HR for my voice being naturally too low. I was told I need to try and do more to be inclusive at the chat with HR about it.
LMAO, you're different, be more inclusive.
What in the actual F?
Wait, I'm sorry. Let me get this straight. You were reprimanded for having too low of a voice, and were told to speak in a higher register to be more inclusive. I don't.
No one actually said speak in a higher register. It was more of a this is a problem for some people, you should consider trying to make the work environment more inviting, like change my voice. I didn't say that, but just think about how the way you're present yourself impacts others.
This happened to me too in my first job out of college. It was a home health company that was 97% women. I had to cover for the receptionist during her lunch break and would have to deal with nurses calling in all the time. I would get comments as soon as I answered the phone, "They have a man answering the phone now," or "This is home health, right? Where's Linda?" Also had several complaints too. I had my manager ask me to not use such a low and intimidating voice and try and sound more happy. This was an HR position and I was given the equivalent of perk up buttercup.
Not daily, but as a cosplayer who does shirtless characters, Ace, Grimjoe, Barn, I get groped a lot. Chest and arms mostly. Also my ass gets slapped, squeezed, and crotch grabs are often enough to mention too. Hell, even when I'm armored they find a way to get to me. Equals.
What's the saying? Cosplay is not consent.
This is even more unacceptable because there are signs all over cons saying dress is not consent. What a double standard.
My family owns a restaurant and I would help out doing the dishes and operating front of house. My mum mainly hired female waitresses for some reason and I overheard things like, "He's cute, I wonder what it's like to ride Asian guys." And one time, one of the girls finished their shift and I was brushing the floor near entrance, she came up to me and grabbed my balls with a lip bite. I was really uncomfortable as I had a girlfriend at the time. I stalked them on social media for a bit and I found out they were really into K-pop and one of them had a history of dating Asian guys. They eventually quit as they had A-levels to prepare for, equivalent to AP, and because I live in a small town, I bump into them a lot, meaning they stare whenever I walk past them.
I only recently found out about the widespreading trend of fetishizing Korean guys. I keep hearing all kinds of sexual harassment stories similar to your own. Weird to think K-pop is inspiring this kind of abuse. I guess some people just can't tell reality from fantasy though.
I recently became a father and was working on a hit TV series. A female producer who is best friends with the executive in charge thought it would be funny to grab my stomach and say, "Working on your dad bod already?" My daughter at that point was 1 week old. If I grabbed a woman's stomach and said she was fat or pregnant, I would have been fired. Well, I complained to make a point. She recently was promoted and I wasn't invited back after 5 seasons. Oh, I sent the line-produced screen grabs of her apology and was told they'd look into it. This was over a year ago and since she was promoted. I work plenty but it's a gross business.
Got my junk grabbed and pinched once when I was in a public transport by an older, homeless-looking woman. Everyone saw what happened and didn't do nothing. I was in shock and didn't know what to do, so I just pretended nothing happened.
A woman who was celebrating her 21st birthday did the same to me at the bar. I left the bar to go home and she was outside crying, obviously sloppy drunk. She had been dancing with a bunch of dudes, which made her insecure boyfriend super upset. I had no idea what the situation was, so I walked up and asked if they needed anything. She looked straight up at me and grabbed my balls. Hard. I backed away, obviously shocked, and she tried it again. Then the boyfriend started screaming, "Do you want me to kick his ass? Is that what you want?" And she sobbed even harder. I was so confused by everything, I threw my hands up, said good luck with that, and bounced. There were people all around but no one seemed pissed when she grabbed me. Most were laughing. Now, I have a 6-foot rule with drunk, crying people who I don't know.
WTF Jesus Christ. PPL are effing insane.
One day I got a text message from someone I didn't know, asking me to meet for dinner. I had gone to a new haircut place a few days earlier. One of the hairdressers, not the one who cut my hair, had seen me and decided it made sense to look up my phone number from the client records and ask me out. I had no idea who this was, it was so weird. I got several more messages from her before she stopped messaging me. Never went back to that hair place.
Getting physically and verbally assaulted by women in nightclubs and then being asked to leave because of it. Even with multiple people trying to tell bouncers what was actually happening, they'll always just pick you to throw out.
That's unfortunately an economics thing more than anything else. Women in a club attract men who buy drinks and throw cash around thinking they'll get laid. A club full of men does not attract women tossing around cash.
As a child I was touched, fondled regularly by the female teacher and elder students. When I complained to the head teacher, she said that I should enjoy it because I'm male. I was 12, any bystander would just assume I was the one harassing women, sometimes 10 to 20 years older than me, because I would bite in defense. Schools was hell.
In 2nd grade, one was friends with this popular boy in our class. Every day at recess, all the girls would literally chase him around the playground. I never got into that because he's my friend B. That's weird. C. I'm not going to waste my recess time running there's gym class for that. One time I sat next to him on the bench and he was like breathing heavily and I think crying a bit. I felt so bad about his situation. I urged him to tell the teacher. He told me that the teacher said to enjoy the attention. Some messed up kid couldn't enjoy his recess time. He was getting harassed, and our teacher tells him to enjoy it? He cried so hard when I had to move away. I still think about him from time to time. Peter, I hope you're doing all right, man.
This is a crime.
I've had my arms groped, DK groped, and ass groped before. It's not as flattering or hot as you might think it is when you're not expecting it. In the mood, it just kinda creeps you out.
I've also had a woman just grab me and plant a full-on open-mouth kiss straight on me, then act offended when I pulled away and basically ran from her. Never seen or talked to her before that moment.
Exactly. It's nice when your so does it, but when strangers do it, it's uncomfortable as hell.
I was also going to mention the man boob comment. But used to be all the time drunk women or men would run their fingers through my beard and have some sly comment like, I wonder if this tickles.
I used to have some pretty decent moobs. When some guys would get really drunk, they would bean dip me and touch, flick under my moob, which started to get embarrassing. I'm around 6 feet 7 inches, but I'm super nice. So people think that they can get away with it. So I decided that when a guy puts his hand on me or fix my moobs or whatever, I take that as an invitation to put my very large hands on them. Now when there is a moob flick or anything like that, I go ahead and exclaim, oh hell yeah, and I excitedly and semi-aggressively grab their chest with both of my large hands. Nobody flicks my moobs anymore, smiley face.
Had a female work colleague sit on my lap during my lunch break asking for help. Batting her eyelids. Now I wonder what would happen if I would have sat on her lap.
This happened to a guy at my work. He's 50 married with 3 kids. We were having Friday drinks after work, at work. Liquor retailer. The girl was about 23 and very cute. She decided to sit in his lap, in front of everyone. He got up very quickly and left. His wife sometimes worked for us, and so did his sons. He did not invite this attention. She thought it was funny.
I have some friends who get a pass on sitting on my lap. No sexual intent, no sexism, no drama. They just have a pass for doing so. I think it's somehow more normalized because sitting on someone's lap is sort of a thing in my country's public transport systems.
I was in the store and an old woman on a mobility scooter wanted to pass me, so I stepped to the side against the shelf. Instead of using all the free space on the other side, she starts turning closer to me as she passes, so my DK rubs all across her shoulder. She did a weird moaning sound at the same time. I posted about this on Facebook at the time and almost everyone thought it was hilarious.
That is beyond creepy.
Yuck. That made me feel disgusting just reading it.
That is creepy and disturbing as F, but the mental image did make me crack up a bit. To be fair, it's because it's so absurd. I think a slow-mo close-up shot would fit into a raunchy comedy movie.
Haha, yeah, I wanted to laugh as well after it happened until I realized I had been assaulted basically. I guess as a guy you're not used to thinking that way.
Not daily basis now, but when I was a nursing student a few years back, it was quite common that older female patients tell me that it was so nice to be touched by a young man again. Some even commented about their big old lady breasts and how most men do like that. Needless to say that I was extremely uncomfortable and disgusted, but I was about 20 years old and had no life experience, so I just accepted it as a part of a job. On the upside, I am now biotech grad and medical student, and, as I am little older, take no poo from any patient, male or female, and have zero problem to publicly shame every single patient who talks to a nurse that way. Edit 1. Holy poo, 12K upvotes. First time for me, thanks. We'll do a few edits now to answer some frequent questions. 1. First of all, we are not talking about dementia or mental illness. This is something completely different. Of course, it is disgusting if someone is grabbing you if he has dementia or not. But, this is mostly part of the disease. I would compare it with something like vomit or urine from another patient. Of course it's disgusting to get puked on, pissed on, or some other ungodly fluid. But it's not intentional, and it's most embarrassing for the patient himself. So no, nobody is offended by that. But we are talking about patients who are mentally fine. Who are just thinking it's okay to grab a 20-year-old by the DK and demand handjobs from a young nurse. They are pigs. Male or female doesn't do poo in that matter. It's disgusting and everybody should be shamed about that. 2. We are not talking about dying patients, which would not make it okay. We are talking about patients in the ER or somewhere else who often seriously think of nurses as some kind of maid. I imagine it's the same kind of person who catcall girls and boys on the street and really think it's appropriate and something could come out of it. 3. My reaction today to this kind of behavior. Most of the time it is enough to just very loudly announce what they just said or did, and if they think this is okay. Most of them will buckle down and are completely embarrassed. Most of the time this is the only thing that's needed, and after that they are completely fine. But there are other times where these people tend to discuss about it. It was a joke, you are a leftist, or in German, Rot Grundversifter Gutmensch, don't be AP, and in these cases I like to make clear that although they are at the hospital, I don't have to do poo with them, unless they are in clear danger. As long they are not in danger, I don't have to treat them. Period. When they treat nurses, or myself, in a way that is nowhere near okay. And I don't talk about simple rudeness or something like that. I talk about grabbing asses, demanding handjobs, stuff like that. They can leave. They will come back. When they are healthy enough to grab a nurse in the ass, they are healthy enough to search for another hospital. 4. This or my public shaming of the patient does not convert to other situations. What I mean East. As a nurse or as a doctor, there are ways to treat a patient. Rudeness can be a sign of fear, pain or past trauma. Rudeness East not the same as sexual harassment. A rude patient will have to learn to be polite. I will talk to them and maybe help them a little to calm them down. Before you make any assumptions that they are assholes, you have to get to the bottom of it. Maybe they are DKS. But maybe, the last time they were in the they got treated horribly and painful and it's just fear. Also, most elderly have problems to lose the power of the situation, which is totally normal. TLDR. Rude patients may be DKS. Sexually harassing patients are mostly DKS.
My grandfather was a nurse in the army. He told us stories like yours and many more. Such a shame stuff like that still goes on today. Edit. Wow 2K upvotes. My grandpa passed away this past May and I always begged him to write a memoir to detail his experiences as a male nurse, but he never did. I'll share a few stories he told me pertinent to the question though. 1. He received numerous gay slurs for being a male in a female-dominated field. 2. Similarly, he had a higher-ranking officer hit on his wife in front of him. 3. He was groped by patients and co-workers, in front of other people sometimes. 4. My mom had kids tease her because my grandpa was a nurse, doing things like asking if he wore white stockings. 5. My grandma was also a nurse, but not in the military. Both were excluded socially by the other females nurses. 6. Lastly, at the time, many of the female nurses in the military my grandpa worked with were lesbian couples. My grandpa didn't care about that. If you could do your job well, you were fine in his book. However, this meant a lot of the couples wanted to stay together, whether it be in the same department or the same hospital. So more often than not, the male nurses were the ones that were required to move more often than the female nurses. There are many more lengthy stories. My mom and I are trying to write down all the ones we can remember him telling us, not just sexual harassment related, i.e. one nursing student put milk in an IV. His best friend, who I consider a third grandfather, passed in June and they shared many stories that are likely buried with them now. Remember to talk with your grandparents so their life stories can continue on once they are gone.
That's amazing. I mean that you stand up for the nurses, cause you know how it feels. Sorry it happened to you.
32M with athletic build. At every job I've had, co-workers and customers have always openly grabbed my arms, smacked, squeezed my butt, and made comments about my appearance that would get me fired if I said them to women.
My husband is a server at a high-end restaurant. I know restaurants are restaurants everywhere when it comes to staff. I've worked in plenty, but he's told me that he get harassed pretty much every day. Either hit on pretty openly by customers despite the wedding ring or grabbed, groped, commented on by his coworkers. I'm so sorry you've gone through that. It's absolutely not fair. I hope it ends for you, because I know even if you said something firm and simple like, no, or, don't touch me, it's already been done, and nothing really changes.
I've never in my life understood how people just touch strangers in any way, let alone smack their ass too. Noob. I'm so sorry you have had to deal with that.
This has been my experience. I have lean, muscular arms, thanks genetics, and when I worked a regular job I always got comments on them and women wanting to touch them. I ever really thought about it until I read your comment about how inappropriate that was.
I wouldn't call it sexual harassment, but women just touching my hair without asking happens all the time. I have really long hair, but I can't imagine most women would be okay if some guy just started playing with their hair at a bar. If they just ask my permission, I'm usually cool with it. The worst was the chick who grabbed my braid and started yanking me around. Thankfully 4 women rescued me. I don't even know why that chick was pissed at me. She was just pissed I had long hair and extremely drunk. I almost had to punch her. It was so confusing. I've had some weird experiences too. I was eating in a pizza ranch with my dad as a 17-year-old and one of the waitresses walked up behind me and just grabbed my hair and commented on how nice it was. This happened as I had just taken a huge bite of pizza. It was so awkward. My dad was like, do you know her? She was cute and I was really flattered, but at the same time, WTF?
As a person who is black and usually wears their hair out natural, I can say this is 100% true, especially if you're a boy of color with natural curly hair, cuz then girls will just constantly try to touch you since they think it's okay for some reason when it's not. Edit, change some wording.
I must have been protected by the power of ugly or just didn't notice it. I know this kind of thing happens, I guess not to me, thankfully.
Older dudes always assume I want to talk about sex. I was in a golf league with my dad's buddies and they always asked me about my sex life and made jokes that the beer cart girl wanted me. One time one of the guys pulled out his phone and went on his granddaughter's Facebook and tried to get me to say she was sexy.
I am sorry. He was trying to get you to sexualize his own granddaughter? WTF, man.
My dad's mobile mechanic came over and he wouldn't stop talking about loving pee. I can't get enough of pee. Do you love pee? Luckily I didn't need to respond since he showed me a pic of his girlfriend and I commented, she's nice. He went on about just how nice her pee was. Worst oil change of my life.
My mill assumes that men have this complete inability to control themselves and it is 100% up to women to not pursue attached men. I was not aware of this until there was a debate going on about such things at a family function when she asked me, the only non-old male at the event, to confirm her belief. The implication that men are practically wild animals and unable to control themselves is pretty insulting.
I'm not a man, but it's something my male manager has highlighted to me. I work in a hospital as a therapist, mainly with elderly people. Old men make creepy comments or even try to touch female nurses, therapists all the time, and when they do we raise it as being creepy and usually go to see him with another person. We tell the patients that it's not appropriate for them to speak to us like that. Recently there was a female patient who kept making comments about the male staff and everyone just laughed it off. No one told the female patient off. Some of the female staff even agreed and egged her on. It wasn't until my manager raised it as an issue that it made me stop and think. If the roles were reversed, we'd be taking precautions to make the female staff feel safe, but there wasn't anything like that in place for male staff.
I used to be a butcher when I was in my 20s. Every day was full of housewives making sexual innuendos like, I can't wait to wrap my lips around your sausage, or, I really look forward to getting my hands in your rump. They also seemed keen to up the ante every time too. Every single day. I just smiled and carried on, but it was always uncomfortable. No idea why it is completely acceptable to them. I don't imagine they were like that to many other people.
I can't wait to crush the skulls of your enemies with my cock, Sarah.
I heard a great bit of advice about dealing with unwanted innuendo from another thread, make them explain the joke. Just completely innocently ask, what do you mean, really takes the wind out of their sails.
That's when you grab a sausage and give it a nice, audible chop while looking at them dead in the eye.
The ever-present assumption that the end goal of all my interactions is sex. I can't even be friendly to children without someone assuming it's sexual in some way.
Dude, same here. I always feel like I should stay 10 feet away from kids since I'm an adult male. People assume I'm a creep.
Example. I work for a solar company and we fly drones to get 3D models of buildings we'll potentially be working on. Well, the other day I went to do a site assessment at an elementary school. So I pull up in my nice white truck with our company logo all over it, wearing a hat and hoodie with our company logo on it. Now, the people in charge know I'm coming. We spoke on the phone and they gave me the go-ahead to come fly the drone, etc. I started flying the drone around the school taking pictures when recess apparently started. I didn't think anything of it until about 15 minutes later when two female teachers walk up to me and very pointedly and accusingly ask me, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" So I explain the situation to them, point out the truck and clothes with the company logo and give them the name of the administrator I've been working with, and their response was, "Well, you can understand how his looks bad, right?" No. I sure can't realize it looks bad because I'm just doing my job. I'm not here to diddle kids just because I'm a guy. F off with your wild assumptions.
I worked at a quasi-governmental agency and we hired a young guy fresh out of college. The director, who is a woman, walked in the room one day, walked up behind him, put her hands on his shoulders and literally started rubbing his chest. This was like 3 years ago. He just sat there frozen like a deer in headlights. I kinda lost my poo and said what if he was female and a male walked up behind her and started rubbing her shoulders like that. She looked at me like I had 2 heads. I didn't stay at that job very long.
Holy poo. Hopefully neither did that guy.
He didn't. He was recently married and everyone knew.
You did a good job of explaining that. I keep picturing a guy just frozen with his female boss groping him. Yuck.
Women always spank or touch my ass. I also have caught women taking pictures of it. I know if the tables were flipped I'd probably be in jail.
Big butts run in my family, but as a slim high schooler, it was particularly noticeable in school uniform. Older girls used to pinch my ass, make me jump, and laugh about it. Very embarrassing at the time. Edit. Seeing as people are reading this, I'm going to divulge a secret I've kept for well over a decade, despite it not fitting the low-grade theme of the thread. When I was a kid, 9 or 10, I stayed at a hotel in Blackpool, UK with my grandparents. We'd stayed there before, and I knew of all these unused corridors, stairwells and cupboards that were only lit by emergency lighting. I can only imagine the hotel had poor patronage to not be using these areas. Me and the other kids holidaying there used to play hide and seek in the hotel, despite being warned away from the unused areas. One day I was hiding at the top of a dark stairwell, which I think led to the roof, and 2 older girls who were seeking found me and proceeded to undress and fondle me without so much as a word. It wasn't particularly traumatic, and young me decided not to tell an adult, but yeah, these things do happen. Worth raising awareness emo, as I'd hate for something like that to happen to my younger family members.
My husband has complained that there is this societal assumption that men are dogs who always want sex, and as such several times he's not had his marital status respected. Women he's only been nice to in the past have made comments like, "Yeah, he's in love with me. He'd do anything for me," openly in front of him, have sent him messages prompting infidelity, and have even sent him nude images. There's a confidence that they can steal him not only from me but his past relationships because men cheat is such an assumption. His favorite thing to say is, "The only thing I cheat on is my diet."
My father-in-law has said that some women see a wedding ring as a signal that he's extra attractive, or a challenge, or something. He tells a story about a female coworker. At his work holiday party she came up to him and said, "So who are you going home with tonight?" And he said, "My wife," while pointing at my mother-in-law standing next to him. The coworker was like, "Oh, well, let me know." WTF people.
My husband has complained that there is this societal assumption that men are dogs who always want sex. I had a friend who believed this. She was super delusional and think that men are out to get her because she's a goddess or something. She would try to F all my male friends and then get into arguments with them and tell me I couldn't hang out with them anymore. It even went so far as she told me I couldn't hang out with my own brother. Anytime we would hang out she would obsessively talk about men and invalidate my problems, then go back and talk about her boy problems. The best I can explain her behavior is obsessive narcissistic predator. And I was naive for wasting my time.
My roommate said something to me that I was like, no, that's ridiculous. They said, oh, I'll flirt with anyone cause if that person's willing to do X then their relationship isn't really that important to them and they shouldn't be in it. And I was just like, WTF, no, that's disrespectful to the guy and the significant other. Not to mention that it seems you know what you're doing is wrong but are using that to rationalize it. Edit. Since I was unclear in this original comment I want to clear some stuff up. This person's viewpoint was that they are absolved from blame for being part of the cheating if they do things further than just verbal flirtations like physical touch, sending nude photos, that sort of thing. And this was in situations where they knew the person was in a committed monogamous relationship.
My husband has experienced this poo at work too. He's a police officer that works in a federal facility. He's uniformed, so he gets even more unwanted attention than the average. We'd joke about it, until I ended up working in the same facility and would watch him get hit in daily. The man literally can't be nice to any woman at work or he risks having them follow him around. I almost lost my mind having to watch one particular woman talk about him to her girlfriends, while standing 5 feet away and within earshot of myself. Yes, she knew he was my husband. No, she didn't care. We bitch about men hitting on women while they're working and all the things they do to make us uncomfortable, but women do this poo with impunity.
I used to work in a job in the entertainment industry where I wore a kilt a lot of the time. Couldn't believe how many drunken women thought it was perfectly okay to stick their hands up under it and grab a handful of my junk, sometimes pretty aggressively too. I quickly stopped freestyling and wore boxers or compression shorts, and this would lead to the grabbers shouting out, "This loser is wearing pants," before mocking me to their pals. Oh, and far too often my kilt was lifted for anyone in eyeshot to see my junk, yet when I pointed out how much trouble I would be in for pulling the same poo with them, I'd get looked at like I was being fecking ridiculous.
Imagine literally trying to grab a guy's junk and then acting like he's the weird one. Bro, effing believable.
I could never believe the shocked look on their faces, especially when I asked what the F they thought they were doing. Like they were just having a laugh.
Scott here. Just so you know, freestyling is not as common as you might think around here. From the times I've felt confident, bevved enough to ask, and it's actually banned from certain events such as dances, since accidentally showing your knob where there may be kids is a bridge too far for tradition.
Had a female manager get into my unlocked phone, send my nudes to herself, and then shared them with the other female manager. I was 24 at the time and both managers were younger. At the time I honestly didn't know how to feel about it, so I just shrugged it off with bravado because they were both attractive, so what the hell? But now I realize that attractiveness isn't a free pass for invading someone's privacy like that. Don't even get me started about being a straight male hairdresser.
Dude, I am so sorry, that's horrible. That's not just an invasion of privacy, sending someone's nudes without the person's consent is straight up illegal.
Also, being a straight male who is into fashion. I love a variety of styles such as modern streetwear or vintage 90s style. Every time you wear something more different, exotic than a Nike hoodie plus jeans, everyone assumes you're gay, gives you side eyes or something. It really feeling annoys me sometimes.
I don't know how old you are, but hopefully you didn't have to live through the metrosexual phenomenon. Like Pooh Barbara, I just like to effing look nice, it has nothing to do with sexuality.
I was once dressed as a priest in a party and a girl, out of the blue, said, "I want Father's holy staff," while trying to grab my crotch. I quickly moved to avoid it and she said, "What are you, gay?" Well, I am, but just because a guy avoids having his DK grabbed doesn't mean he's gay. Maybe they just don't want to be touched by you, Tracy. Edit. Word.
Classic Tracy.
Such a Barbara.
Yeah, Tracy, those vows of celibacy ain't just for show.
Just the universal idea that we are always the hunters, and never the prey.
Something magical happens at 35 where suddenly the guys are avoiding the women and the women are hunting the guys. Listen, lady, I get it, you have a pee, but I've got poo to do, and even after that pee is less demanding, so keep walking.
As someone who is pretty tall at 6'6", whenever I'm at the pub, bar or at a party, I'd almost always get a woman ask me if I had a big DK. Most of the times I just respond saying, "My girlfriend is a lucky lady, I guess." I even had it happen when I worked as a bartender. Woman asked me this question and bought me a drink and told me to join her and friends after I finished my shift. Just took the money and bought myself some food on my way home after my shift, lol. Edit. Grammar.
This poo ed up my entire sex life. I'm 2 meters tall, also around 6'6", but my DK is a little below average. I feel like I'm leading women on at this point. And #X200B. Edit. Thank you all for the kind words, it's hard not to feel insecure sometimes, eh?
Greater than 6 feet 6 inches whenever I'm at the pub, bar, or a party. How tall are you when you're at other places?
Lol. Taller when I wear high heels, of course. Thanks for the grammar check.
I'm not really sure if it counts or not, but as a male who used to be extremely overweight, I would always have people, guys and girls, trying to touch my man boobs. It made me self-conscious and uncomfortable, and I voiced that, but people continued to do it. They would grab them or hit them and pretty much everything in between. It happened very frequently as well, but I guess nobody saw a problem with it, whether it was because I was a guy or because it wasn't a traditional form of harassment.
I still have mine, but I'm sorry people did you like that. Man, that must have sucked. I feel terrible having people just point out that they exist.
What part of "don't touch other people" is so difficult for some to understand? I am so sorry you have to deal with that. People are the worst.
I had a girl do this to me once. When I did it to her, she suddenly didn't find it very funny. She did understand afterwards, and I have a fond memory. Edit. Everyone, please don't make it bigger than it was. I did warn the girl if she continued doing it I would do it to her. Plus it's been 15 plus years ago and I doubt she even remembers it, it was that small.
Late here. 28M in an office predominantly with women. I'm 6 feet 3 inches and athletic. Especially the older ladies will touch my shoulders in a way that's not friendly and more to touch. I also received pretty gnarly comments when I lost a little weight. They also say poo like, men are the weaker sex, or something like that. I blacked out at work from an irregular heart rhythm and they all said, that's such a man thing. That doesn't even cover everything, but it is a start.
Not really sexual harassment, but this comes to mind. I work in a small retail store. I know a lot of customers by name and I really do like my job. I'm friendly with pretty much everyone. So guess what? If you bring your adorable child into my store and they do something adorable, I'm gonna giggle and interact with the child. I'm a 21-year overweight man who wears headbands, and your child is adorable, but that doesn't mean I wanna FIT. You would be amazed how many mothers will shove their child behind them or ask them to be quiet whenever I acknowledge the child at all. Makes me hella sad in the moment.
Greater than wears headbands. Not judging if my first mental image is accurate, but my initial thought was of cat ears or springy things. I have a 5-yo, she wears a lot of headbands.
This makes me so sad. I've heard first-hand accounts of fathers that are nervous to provide basic care to their own children in public because they get weird looks. Yet, the same people that give a man the side eye when he takes his kid to the bathroom won't hesitate to accuse all men of not being nurturing enough to care for a child.
I'm gay and have been frequently told by women I have worked with over the years that they could fix me. One was a manager. No, there is nothing to fix. And you can F right off with that. I don't tell a straight guy he hasn't met the right DK yet. Don't tell me I haven't met the right vulva yet. Rant.
Maybe not daily, but I'm a gay man and so many women think it's acceptable to touch me or grab my DK. I've also had quite a few people say things like, if you tried pee you'd love it, or the worst is when, progressive, people say things like, why do you like men, they're so gross. IDK man, I'm a man who loves men, I don't think men are inherently gross.
I used to work in a place where an almost 70-year-old woman would constantly harass a guy in his 30s. Loudly tell him he's handsome, he's sexy, say, that's name, he's my boyfriend. And everyone would laugh. The guy would chuckle nervously. Every time she had an issue with her computer or couldn't lift something, hey, name, my sexy boyfriend, I need you. Everyone thought it was funny, I thought it was gross. The guy being hassled was the quiet type and would never say he was uncomfortable, but I could tell as a woman he was. I finally went to my supervisor and told her what this lady was doing was unacceptable, not funny, and if a man was doing it to a woman he would be fired. She tried to tell me it was just a joke, but I was like, yeah, a joke. Well, something must have clicked with the supervisor. BC later that week the old lady stopped catcalling him and never did it again. Treated me like poo until I quit though.
Greater than treated me like poo until I quit though. Completely unacceptable, maybe should have gone to your manager again.
I work in the health field. This happens frequently with older patients too. It's a little different seeing as it's co-workers vs patients, but I've had it be awkward where one time my patient wanted to take my picture to show all her friends the handsome nurse she has. I appreciate the compliment part, but that'd be weird.
Greater than it was just a joke. This is exactly what male sexual harassers used to say. They would say their target was flattered, or it was just a game. Sometimes it is fun at first, but persistently joking at someone else's expense is a form of harassment. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy liked it at first, but quickly soured on the joke.
Girl here, back in the day when I went clubbing, if a guy friend was being harassed by someone they didn't feel comfortable with, I'd act as GF to them, stand up for them or tell the girl to get lost. Guys would do the same back. Harassment is harassment, no matter your gender. So sick of guys not being taken seriously when they get harassed or sexually abused.
Hey, good on you. I've done this a lot as a guy and also walked up to random girls and asked if they could just help me out. I know this sounds weird, but no girl has ever made me feel stupid about it. It's actually pretty fun being the impromptu rescuer.
As a guy who's been in those situations before, you are an amazing person. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
One time I, 29 meters, was sitting in the break area with about 5 of my co-workers, all ladies. I was mostly minding my own business, occasionally chirping in on the conversation when one of the women in her 40s thought it'd be fun to sit on my lap and I just froze. They were all laughing but I got up without saying anything else. I heard one of them shout to me, "Did we just make you feel uncomfortable?" I said, "No. Because what the hell else do you say to that?" I reported the situation and she kept her job. For reference, the same company suspended me for a month and demoted me for offering a female coworker a hug. Which wasn't right either, but I feel like since she actually touched me with her butt that maybe she should get some repercussions for that. Edit. Wow, this blew up. I should offer some clarifications. 1. The coworker asking if they made me uncomfortable was likely being genuine, but she was still chuckling while asking, so it didn't matter much. 2. I was suspended for a month and demoted for offering a coworker a hug and in a separate conversation asking about that coworker's birthmark. It looked like a very concerning bruise that ran around her neck. She was around 18 years old. The company focused more on the hug when disciplining me, and it happened at the height of the Me Too movement.
When I was between 10 and 12, I have a slightly repressed but still fairly vivid memory of turning around in the shower to see my grandmother and younger cousin, F35, spying on me. Since becoming an adult I've 1. Been full-on groped on my DK multiple times while working as a bouncer, then attacked, verbally or slapped, when I kicked them out. 2. Been tested, at the bar, where the head of security put one of the regular women up to aggressively hitting on me to see if I would cheat. 3. Had a member of bar staff delude herself into thinking that I'd have an affair with her, then tried to publicly ream me out when I told her no. 4. Been told repetitively that I need to get over it by both men and women and should be thankful. I get that this is a world's smallest violin thing for many men who do wish that women would give them attention, and I am thankful that I'm attractive enough for women to hit on me. However, it gets me extremely fired up when I hear the same women who harass men being some of the most vocal critics of men sexually harassing women.
Not quite sexual harassment, I guess, but I get really effing tired of people commenting when I take the kids anywhere. "Oh, you're babysitting today." Or getting side-eyed while watching my daughter and her friends play at the park.
It's amazing to me whenever I take my kids to the park, which is very frequent, how many times the moms there suddenly need to take their kids somewhere else or leave. It happens so much that it's a running joke with my wife when I get back home. I don't understand it. Why would I feel the need to kidnap your little urchins when I just brought 3 of mine to the park?
I love it when they elect a Karen to come over and interrogate you.
I am a male athlete and very often, obviously gay. Dudes at the gym who I am not friends with, will squeeze my arms or my shoulder with a flirty look. With women on the other hand, acquaintances or friends of friends, some will go out of their way touch my chest or my stomach. Unlike my home culture, Latin Europe, I am living in Thailand where usually people don't touch each other unless they are close, so I know it's very unusual behavior for them. The only reason I tolerate it is because I grew up in a touchy-feely culture and also to avoid any confrontation, which is a total no-no here.
Getting tits rubbed on me. Not on a daily basis, but it happened often enough.
Women have no filter because they don't see themselves as harassers. The girls at work will talk openly about gross sexual topics that would make my buddies cringe. Girls will happily touch my arms and chest without even thinking about it. I've had gross older women grabbing my ass.
On my previous job, I had a 50-something coworker ask me about my personal life, relationships, sex life. I didn't answer, but I briefly considered giving a graphic, detailed description of gay sex. Too bad I changed my mind.
The most in-depth private sexual stories I've heard have all been from women. There's the locker room talk stereotype for men, but I swear I've never heard half the poo from my guy friends as I have from female acquaintances.
As a queer woman, I 100% agree with what you're saying. It's disgusting how women think their touches are always wanted because of that stupid belief of men always want sex. Your gender doesn't make you a creep, your actions do.
I know it sounds overused, but grey sweatpants. I'm a fitness trainer and I like to wear them because they fit well with most outfits in winter, and there's a lot OT, looking at the bulge. Also had a coworker slap my ass because I was looking fine. If it's a friend I am okay with it, but not a coworker.
Been grabbed and groped a few times at bars, clubs. I didn't feel harassed any of the times, it just surprised me. One time I was semi-clumsily grabbed on my ass while I was getting a drink at a bar. It made me think someone was trying to steal my credit card from my pocket. When I turned around and saw it was a woman smiling at me, I said, "Well, hello to you too," and grabbed her ass, then went and joined my group of friends at our table.
Not every day. When I was about 18, I went through the massive crowd in the town center. I simply happened to see two ladies, the one with pushchair and the emo one walking along. Once they passed by me, the emo grabs my ass suddenly. The hard grab as she could. I jumped as turned my head to her. Her friends reacted like, "OMG, I don't believe what you just did," as emo giggles. As I watch her vanished into the crowd, I was confused because I was taught that touch their ass or breasts in public are inappropriate. Why would she do that to me? Is it because we are similar? I am emo as well, by the way. I told my friends about what happened. They didn't buy it. They think it was my fantasy. Apologies for my bad English.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.